Today, in this episode of Doc's Boost, we're going to be talking about upgrading the gear set in your 8.8. Now, I know there's a lot of videos out there that cover this topic, but none of them seem to get you where you need to be when it comes to being quiet, no matter what gear set you select. Whether it's 410s, 373s, or 355s, I don't care what it is, they're not designed to make noise. Nobody should ever convince you that 410s are noisy no matter what. That's not true. Alright? That's bullshit. If the factory can do it, why can't you? But before we get into all that, make sure that you click the like, subscribe, and ring that bell to set notifications for all the new content coming your way, and leave some comments down below. It really does matter, and I appreciate the support and the conversation. The specifications and the thicknesses of all the shims and the sizes and places that I'm going to give you are going to give you the best shot available within 2 thousandths. All you got to go is up or down 2 thousandths and you're going to get a quiet gear set. Even if you've got an empty case, you've had to replace your case because of physical damage, where do you start? Well, you're going to be able to start with these measurements that I'm going to share with you. That's going to be your best bet and your best spot to start for a quiet, finished job. Our way to get some 410 gears put in the rear end. Got a guy right around the corner here, oddly enough, that's going to take care of me today and guaranteed to be quiet when it's done. So how about that? I'm really looking forward to that, that's for sure. So we're pulling into the parking lot right now. I've been waiting a long time for this. It's going to be great. So I'm really excited. So what we got here?
Well, we've got some Automotive 410 premium pinion gears here. We're going to swap on today.
Cool.
And press bearing kit. Install gears so we can shim everything up properly.
Alright, let's see what I get to club you with. So
Absolutely.
we have Ford Performance parts, 410 gears, rebuild kit, cups, cones, shims, crush collar, pinion nut, seals, the whole shoot match, everything you need right here, ready to rock and roll. Even though this is a high difficulty job, on a scale of 1 to 10, probably a 10, I'm going to assume that if you're going to try it on your own, you already know how to take things apart and put things back together. So I'm not going to walk you through, take that bolt off, that kind of a thing. This is a good time as any to stop for a moment and just tell you that at any time you need quick answers or need your gear swap done professionally with a guaranteed quiet ride, contact Jeff Huddleston at 623-696-7302. You can text or call. Jeff's the owner-operator of Automotive Instincts here in Phoenix, Arizona. And Jeff guarantees he won't quit until your gear swap is quiet to your satisfaction. There's a lot of stuff you got to get out of the way. Tires and brakes and axle shafts and get the cover off. Sway bar links and all of that stuff. Get it out of the way. All of it. Whatever there is. Get ready. Once you get inside the case, then you got to slow the roll down a little bit because you've got to get the C-clips out of the axle shafts. And once it's exposed, then you're going to push that axle shaft in, watch for the movement on the inside, and then you're going to be able to get the C-clip out of there.
You gotta go through this hole. Pull that, and that's probably push in, and then you'll see it.
Yep. The first little tricky thing, if you've never been inside of a differential before, is getting the axle shafts out. So there's a locking pin that you got to get out.
Well, that's a plus, right?
Once you get that out, you got to push the shaft in, get C-clip
It
out.
seems
So,
like a heavy duty.
and the video is going to kind of slow down a little bit so you can see how that takes place. Make sure, just as Jeff's going to do, lift that axle shaft up off of the seal as you pull it out. We don't want to drag the shaft across the lip seal to damage the lip seal and then cause your axle shaft to leak after all of this, because then you got to take the cover off and do all that crap.
I love this little stuff that they make nice and strong and gets right in where you need to get.
Yeah.
Now it's time to just empty the cage.
Use their head in some areas.
But make damn sure when you take the bearing caps off that you keep them in the right orientation that you took them off in. Left side goes left side, right side, top and bottom. Don't get them twisted. You gotta put them in the same way you took them out or you're gonna be screwed, period. Now another thing that happens when the carrier comes out, the shims come out too. Make damn sure that you keep the left side shims on the left and the right side shims on the right. Keeping them in the right place, marking them left and right shim packs are going to make your installation go a lot easier. Don't get them confused. When removing the pinion flange, a puller's needed because it's press fit. If you start to hammer on that, you're going to damage things, so don't use any hammers. Now there's the crush collar and there's a shim in between the bearing and that cone on the pinion. I've got some great tips on keeping your gear set quiet come installation concerning the crush collar. Knocking out the old bearing races, or the cups as I would call them, is an easy task. You can see Jeff just using a pneumatic hammer, just beating them in a couple of seconds, right? Easy peasy.
Right here. There you go.
Putting them back in, you should get a special tool for that so they fit nicely into the cup. You pound them in the space. When the sound or tone changes, you know you have them seated. It's as simple as that. Any kind of an impact hammer or a hammer and a chisel will knock them out. There's little notches in the case that you'll see that gives you access to the backside of those cups. You can easily knock them out.
You can see that we've got the front seal in, the front bearings in, the oil slinger is in, and we're ready to slide that pinion gear in. Well, that one's a little more heavy duty than the one I had, but
This has come a long way too. You see the attachments and how it works together.
All right, the next thing we got to do on this trip is to take the bearing off of the pinion. And you're going to ask, well, why you got to do that? Because you're not going to use either one of those, right?
It does a good job.
We need the shim that's buried hidden underneath of that bearing. This is the best place to start. So we need to take that bearing off to get this shim. The next thing we're going to do is take the ring gear off and install the new one with the new bolts that came with the kit.
Alright, so what did we find out about the specs?
100 foot-pound.
100.
And we got 90 foot-pounds on our bearing caps. And we just need our turning torque spec for the pinion when we're done.
And after that, then we're going to take the bearing off of one side to the other, and we're good to go. And then it's off to the press to push the new bearings onto the pinion and the carrier. Please don't hammer these things on. It's not going to work to your benefit. Please don't ruin your job. Use the press. Please, for God's sake, use the press.
Collar going on there.
And we've probably landed in about the most critical spot in the whole thing right now, and that's pinion install, pinion depth, crush collar, that whole ball of wax. So this is how the parts look stacked up on the pinion. We've got the shim to set the pinion depth. The bearing gets pressed onto that. Crush collar next.
Yeah, that's it.
Outer bearing, cups and cones. Oil slinger, and then the seal goes on top of that. So that's just to give you an idea of how the parts are stacked. Notice the bearing caps on the table. They're set in the same orientation they came off. They have to go on the same way you took them off. Jeff is now attaching the fixture to the pinion flange to help crush the collar to set pinion bearing preload. Jeff's now sliding on the flange and attaching the pinion nut provided in the kit.
Get on door, somewhat seated.
First major tip for a quiet 410 install.
Good crush sleeve.
Once you've got that crush collar crushed to the proper depth and you've reached the correct specification for the rotational preload, you're going to disassemble it, take that crush collar out, measure the thickness, and match that thickness with a solid collar. Slide the solid collar on there and use some shims to match the thickness. Reassemble it, retorque it to the same specification, the 20 inch-pounds, and now you have your best shot at a quiet 410 install. One of a few tips I'm going to share with you. Solid collar, not the crush.
Looks like maybe go just a hair tighter.
Moving it over to get another 2,000ths out of the backlash.
Here we are at the next critical juncture for the install process. We're going to be checking backlash, bearing preload, that's carrier bearing preload this time, and the gear pattern. We're going to start with targeting the backlash at 8,000ths. Remember these shim packs you took out on the right and left side? Now's the time to get them out because we're going to use them again. We're going to take 6,000ths off of each side, put them in the carrier, and then shove that carrier in place. Once that carrier is in place, you shouldn't have any end play back and forth, right to left movement. If you do, add a small shim to take it up. You need to have a solid, firm fit, but not preload set just yet. You just can't have back and forth movement. Put the caps on, torque them to 90 foot-pounds, and then check the backlash for 8,000ths. That's the target. We have a range of 8 to 12. 8,000ths is where you want to be for a quiet install. That's part of the official quiet 410 install process. 8,000ths backlash. What you're going to have to do if you need to move that carrier right or left to get within that 8,000ths backlash is remove the caps. Whatever shim you take out of one side, you put in the other side. Put the bearing caps back and recheck the backlash until you get 8,000ths. Rinse and repeat that process until you're right on the money. Once you have the backlash established, what you need to do is take the caps off, get those 6,000ths on each side again to insert and set the preload. You may have to take the carrier out, Add those 6 thousandths to each side for the bearing and preload. That's the official amount, 6 thousandths on each side. And you may have to use a little bit of force to push them in, maybe a dead blow hammer or something. Gently knock them in place. Caps back on, torque to 90 foot-pounds, reconfirm the backlash, and now you're ready to check the pattern. Paint the gear, check the pattern, and do whatever's necessary to correct. Now, the first time that we checked the pattern, we found the pattern to be off a lot. So we had to disassemble everything, take the pinion back out, change the shim under that bearing 2 thousandths, put it all back together, and man, that solid collar sure came in handy now. Went through that entire process to make sure that the backlash was back at 8 thousandths, checked the pattern again, and wouldn't you know it, we had to do it one more time. We disassembled the whole thing, changed another 2 thousandths, and then rechecked and reassembled everything else, put it all back together, and then we had the perfect pattern at 8 thousandths backlash. It was great. There's the pattern we achieved. Okay, just like I promised, here's all the settings that we landed on that are going to be a great place for you to start. But remember this, the shim sizes that I'm going to tell you about will not supersede the shim sizes that you take out for your starting point. That's the most important thing you need to remember, is your shims are where you start. If you've got nothing to go by in an empty case, in a zero reference point, then you can use these measurements to start. Okay? I hope you understand that. All right. The backlash has a range of 8 to 12 thousandths. Target 8 thousandths. Don't go for the wide, go for the narrow. Target 8 thousandths. Don't stop until you get 8 thousandths. The next measurement that you have to really deal with is the pinion rotation torque. And that pinion rotation torque has a range of 16 to 29, target 20 foot. Whoops, almost slipped there. It's 16 to 29 inch-pounds. Inch-pounds. Target 20 inch-pounds. And of course, the gear pattern has to be right in the center, and don't stop until you obtain it. Just like the one on the screen right now. If it's not in the center, do the work and get it there. Let's go through the shim sizes that we landed on for my 410 gear swap, and which made that perfectly quiet. The pinion shim is 28 thousandths. The left side carrier shim package is 277 thousandths. The right side carrier shims landed at 264 thousandths, and the solid collar and shims on the pinion is 451 thousandths. I have some bolt torques for you, but they can be found just about anywhere, but I'll give them to you real quick anyway. Pinion nut torque, 140 foot-pounds. Bearing cap torque, 90 foot-pounds. Ring gear bolts, 100 foot-pounds. Diff cover bolts, 24 foot-pounds. And the pinion preload is 20 inch-pounds. It has that range 16 to 29, like I said, but go for the 20 inch-pounds. Now let's get back to the video and finish up this job. Now, only thing left to do is button it up, put it on the ground, and take her for a test drive. All right, this is it, the test drive. We're going to get some quiet gear setter. I'm going to smack this sucker with my free right hand. There we go. Oh, and by the way, this is Jeff. This is Automotive Instincts right there. This is the guy that's going to guarantee your gear set to be quiet. He won't quit until it's quiet. Right?
That's right.
All right, let's go see what this sounds like. It's been a long time coming, that's for sure. Well, so far so good, right?
Yeah, so far.
Oh man, did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
Neither did I.
Oh, excellent.
That's great. That's great. It usually had a lot of noise by now. We'll get up to some highway speeds here in a minute and really put it to the test, but so far so good, man. That 410 sweet. There we are. We're at highway speeds and we have no noise whatsoever. And you guys probably already know I've been it's all gone wiped out clean. Thanks to Jeff, this guy right here did the trick for me for sure. No doubt about it. If you haven't subscribed to Doc's Boost yet, then now's the time. Click the like, subscribe, and ring that bell to set notifications for all the new content coming your way. And leave some comments down below because it really does matter and I appreciate the support. And that's about all we got for this video, right?
All right, sounds good.
All right, we'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.